All right, today in this video, we will talk about what is a constitution and why do we need a constitution. If you remember in the last video, we discussed about the situation in South Africa, okay, how the people of South Africa struggled to do away with the system of apartheid in their country and how they embarked into the journey of a democratic country on 26th April 1994. Okay, so taking the South African model, okay, so it is an example to understand why we need a constitution and what do a constitution do. Okay, so if you look at the example of South Africa, after it became a democratic country in 1994, the oppressor and the oppressed, the oppressor, that is the whites, okay, the whites are the oppressor because they were the ones who introduced the system of apartheid there in South Africa, and that's why they are the oppressors. Okay, and the oppressed in this case is the blacks, okay, because they were being discriminated of their rights under the system of apartheid in South Africa. Okay, so after it became a democratic country in 1994, the oppressor, the whites, the oppressed blacks, they planned to live together as equals in a new democracy. So obviously to do so was not an easy task for them. Okay, it was very difficult for both these groups, that is the whites and the blacks, to trust each other. Okay, if you see the black who were in majority, they were they wanted to ensure that the democratic principle of majority rule was not compromised. They wanted some kind of social and economic rights in their country, whereas on the other hand, the whites who were in minority, they were keen to protect their privileges and property. Okay, so they feared that in a new democratic South Africa, whites they had a fear that उनीहरूको जुन चाहिँ privileges, उनीहरूले जुन चाहिँ opportunities-हरु जुन चाहिँ enjoy गर्दै थियो अहिलेसम्म, okay, the property rights which they had, the kind of property they had, so all that will remain with them or not. That was their biggest fear. And on the other hand, the majority, the black population, they wanted a democratic principle of majority rule. That means because they are in majority, or whoever is in majority, whoever gets the majority in democracy, they should be able to rule. This is what the black majority wanted. Okay, so with this kind of aspirations from a new democracy, it was very difficult for both these groups to trust each other. Okay, and considering उनीहरूको जुन चाहिँ हिस्ट्री थियो है, द हिस्ट्री अफ apartheid, त्यस्तो सिचुएसनमा चाहिँ यो दुइटै कम्युनिटिजलाई एकाअर्कालाई ट्रस्ट गर्नु was a very very difficult thing. Okay, so after a long negotiation, that means after a long talk, both these parties, the blacks and the whites, they agreed to a compromise. Okay, that means दुइटै ग्रुपले they agreed to to make some kind of understanding. Okay, understanding to the whites agreed to the principle of majority rule. Okay, and that of one person one vote. Okay, so the compromise that the whites they were ready to make now was that Abu, in a democratic South Africa, whoever gets the majority, they should be able to rule. Okay, and that every person in South Africa should have one vote. So this is what the compromise, this kind of compromise was made by the white people who were there in minority. Okay, and these whites also agreed that the poor in South Africa, the workers in South Africa, even they should be treated rightly. Okay, that means उनीहरूलाई पनि some basic rights, okay, the basic rights such as the right to vote, this should be given even to the poor and the workers. Okay, so this was the compromise made by the white people in South Africa. Okay, now, on the other hand, the blacks they made a compromise that the majority rule will not be absolute, which means that okay, majority rule को मतलब चाहिँ यो होइन कि the majority, whoever gets the majority, they will do whatever they want. Okay, so they agreed that the majority would not take away the property of the white minority. जो white minority को property छ या white minorities लाई rights जुन चाहिँ दिनुपर्ने छ, that will not be denied in an majority rule. So this is the compromise. Okay, this kind of understanding was done by the whites as well as the blacks in South Africa. Okay, but the problem was now, how was this compromise to be implemented? That means your compromise जुन चाहिँ उनीहरूले गर्यो, जुन चाहिँ यो understanding जुन चाहिँ उनीहरूले गर्यो यो negotiations मा, how should they implement it? That means how should they put it into practice? Okay, even if they manage to trust each other, what was the guarantee that this trust will not be broken in future? Okay, so whatever compromise they were having, it was a verbal compromise. Okay, but in that kind of verbal compromise, त्यो बातचितमा त्यो compromise जुन चाहिँ understanding उनीहरूले गर्यो, त्यो understanding चाहिँ त्यसलाई implement गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ what is the guarantee that त्यो trust चाहिँ के हुँदैन, break हुँदैन? Okay, they'll be able to trust each other. What is the guarantee that they will maintain this trust and this trust will not be broken in future? Okay, so that was one of the biggest problem for them. Okay, and the only way or the only solution to build and maintain this trust was to actually write down the rules that everyone would abide by. Okay, the only solution was that जुन चाहिँ उनीहरूले compromise गरेको छ, that should be put down in the form of some kind of rules. Okay, so that was the only solution. Okay, and everyone should abide by these rules. And this is what the South Africans did. They agreed to write down some basic rules which would be agreed by both the whites as well as the blacks living in South Africa. Okay, and also they agreed that these rules would be supreme. That means these rules, nobody would be above these rules. Okay, that means the rich and the poor, the everyone would be under this rule. That means everyone should follow this rule. Okay, and the government will not be able to ignore these rules. Okay, so in a democracy, this set of basic rules is called the constitution. Okay, so what is a constitution? It is a document that establishes the political values, the power of the government, and the rights of citizens of that country. So in a simple word, constitution of a country is a set of written rules that are accepted by all the people living together in a country. That means all the people who are living in that country, okay, they all agree and they write down a set of rules. So this written set of rules, like we call it a constitution. Okay, and the constitution is a supreme law. That means there is nothing above the constitution. That means koi pani constitution banda thulo chaina. Okay, it is a supreme law, and this supreme law determines the relationship between the different citizens that are living in that country. Okay, and it is also determining the relationship between the people and the government. Okay, so this law जुन चाहिँ छ, this constitution जुन चाहिँ जो written set of law छ, this set of law ले चाहिँ relationship different people को छ, different citizens को छ within a country, त्यसलाई determine गर्छ. Not only that, it also determines the relationship between the country and the government and the people of that country. All right, so now why do we need this constitution? Okay, every democratic country needs to have a constitution. Okay, without a constitution, we cannot say that a country is democratic. So it is important that democratic country needs to have its constitution. So why do we stress on this constitution? Why do we need this constitution? Is because constitution generates a degree of trust and coordination that is necessary for the different kind of people to live together. Okay, so in a country there are different kind of peoples living together. Okay, and for this different kind of people to live together with each other harmoniously, एकाअर्कासँग peacefully बस्नुको लागि, unityसँग बस्नुको लागि, to work with each other in coordination, एकाअर्कासँग मिलजुली बस्नुको लागि चाहिँ we need to have some kind of trust with each other. Okay, so constitution leche, it helps to establish that trust. Okay, and because of this trust, the different kind of people can live with each other peacefully within a country. Okay, so that's the first reason. The second reason why we need a constitution is because it specifies how the government will be constituted and who will have the power to take which decisions. Okay, so government custody form hunu parne, who will form the government, what will be the various composition of the government. Okay, so your different composition ma, okay, just we have the, in our country we have the president at the, highest level, then we have the prime minister, then we have the cabinet, the council. Okay, so all this, how the government is to be constituted, that is specified by the constitution. Okay, and who has what kind of powers, right? Just say PM ko powers ke cha, president ko power ke cha, cabinet ko power ke huncha, all that, all these things are specified by the constitution, and because of which we need to have a constitution. Okay, and the third reason is because it lays down the limits on the power of the government and also tells us what the rights of citizens are. Okay, so the government also does not have, the supreme power. That means, the government cannot do whatever it wants. Of course the government is powerful, but the government also has some kind of limits. Okay, कसको कति power छ, कति area of jurisdiction छ, that is also defined by the constitution. Okay, not only about the government, but the constitution also tells us about what are the rights and the responsibilities of the citizens. Okay, so that is a third reason why we need a constitution. And the fourth and the very important reason we can say is because it expresses the aspiration of the people about creating a good society. So we would all want to live in a good society. Okay, every human being wants to live in a good society, right? So to create that good society, whatever aspirations that people have, to achieve that aspiration, to achieve that, to create that good society, the constitution guides us to create that good society. All right, so there are various kind of rules and regulations for every kind of system in a country, from the government, okay, to the judiciary, to the legislature, and to even the people's roles and responsibility, the citizens roles and responsibility. All these things are defined in the constitutions. Okay, so these are the four main reasons why we need a constitution. Okay, and